My dear Theo, firstly, let me thank you for your recent letter and the enclosed 100-franc note. It would be impossible for me to continue my work without your support. Since moving south from Paris to Orleans and living in the Yellow House, I now believe that yellow is the embodiment of the utmost clarity of love. My sunflower paintings will furnish the small rooms of the house. Their presence will cast a benign glow over the work Paul and I will undertake. I'm sending you some of the paintings, including a self-portrait I sketched earlier. Notice the touches of red around the eyes and mouth. I think they blend well with yellow. Vincent loved the softness of yellow and would often complement it with subtle touches of red. During the period in Orleans, Vincent wrote many letters to me when he lived in the Yellow House he shared with his friend Paul Gauguin, a fellow artist. Vincent found renewed happiness and fresh enthusiasm following his breakaway from the Impressionists in Paris. This new environment suited him well for a while. Success eluded Vincent, and the frustration was probably the start of his mental illness. The arrangement with Paul didn't last very long. Their different styles and temperaments conflicted, and they began to argue fiercely. Following the final argument, Vincent mutilated his own ear with an open razor. Paul decided to move out before Vincent's temper brought about a more serious incident. The subtle yellow and red hues became fiery and dramatic, indicating Vincent's troubled mind. His moods fluctuated from lucidity to madness, which resulted in his admission to an asylum and sans remède. I feel a sadness when I remember the year he spent there. During one of his lucid periods, he wrote, "My dear Theo, I'm working like one possessed. I will go on working very hard, and if the attacks do not return, I'll inform the management to go to blazes, and I'll return to the north." Did the painting of the Reaper arrive safely? I find it queer that I saw it like this, from between the iron bars of a cell. I'm glad I discovered painting before I no longer had any teeth or breath left. His recovery was slow at first, but by the end of a year's convalescence, he was well enough to paint the flowers in the garden and the surrounding landscapes under supervision. I was overjoyed when his sanity improved and he moved north to Auvers, which was closer to my home in Paris. It was in Montmartre where I met Dr. Gachet, a specialist in nervous diseases. He lived in Auvers, but practiced in the city 3 days a week. I quickly arranged a meeting between the doctor and Vincent, and a warm friendship soon developed. The doctor was very sympathetic towards Vincent's state of health. He also took a great interest in his paintings. Vincent kept me informed of the meetings, which I find amusing when I read about them. One in particular reads, "Today I saw Dr. Gachet again, and I'm ready to believe that I shall end up being friends with him. He seems a little eccentric, and is as discouraged about his job as I am with my painting. He said that if the depressions became too much to bear, he could do something to diminish their intensity. Well, the time when I shall need him may certainly come, but at the moment all is well, and things may yet get better. I still think my illness is a malady of the south. The return here should dissipate the whole thing. I love Auvers. It's a beautiful place with lush country. An abundance of greenery and flowers adorn the lovely cottages. Vincent's health, both mentally and physically, improved over the next few months, and he painted furiously. Sadly, it wasn't to last. Vincent lapsed into serious depressions once again. His final landscapes reflected a mind under unbearable stresses. He shot himself with the gun that he bought to scare off the crows that disturbed him while painting the wheat fields. Dr. Gachet notified me of the tragedy. When I arrived the following day at the inn where he was living, I found him lying on his bed, where he laid after staggering back to his room. He spoke his last words as I was holding him. The sadness will last forever, dear brother. He died in my arms. In a letter I found on his body, he had written, "I'm risking my life for art, and my reason has half founded on it." I arranged the funeral, and at the graveside, Dr. Gachet wanted to say a few words of homage about Vincent's life, but he was weeping so much that he could only stammer a very confused farewell. As the coffin was lowered into the grave, I was broken with grief, as were the many mourners who came to say goodbye to my beloved brother, Vincent.